What's up, everybody? This is NBA at the Bar, and we're your host. I'm TA,
This is G Money.
and we are back at you. And Happy New Year, everybody. We are in 2024. We're gonna and we're gonna finish off this unbelievable NBA season because it's starting to get a little hot. We've gotten through that first half of the season, and now we're sitting over here going into that drive into the All-Star game to get to that halfway point, and then boom, watch out. We only got a halfway of the season. This bad boy, 82 games go very quickly when you're having fun. So before we get started, I need y'all to do me a very big favor. I need you to like, I need you to subscribe, and I need you to download. For all of our new listeners, welcome. We really appreciate you being here. I hope you have some fun with us when we're talking that NBA action. So how you feeling today, Bubba?
Oh, I'm feeling great, man. Watch some games. There's actually some hotly contested games going on right now. And so, it just got me juiced up, ready for us to talk.
Without a doubt. And I was able to wean you off today from that scotch and got you on a whole cognac binge with me. So we're drinking that ABK6. Y'all don't know, it's award winning. It's super smooth. He's getting excited about it. I might be able to convert him from that scotch.
I don't know. Cognac. I mean, you might, because this one is good. I came from. This is good.
Yeah, brother. So, a lot of interesting things going on in the NBA. A lot of movement, actually, that we've seen for a couple of teams, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But the first big movement, and what I've noticed is, the Clippers have just absolutely surged in, say, the past 10 days. I think, what are they, about like 12 wins out of 14 games?
Yeah.
And they're 10-0 with Kawhi. So what are your thoughts about that? Do you think this team with that big four has the ability to go deep into the playoffs and maybe even get into that championship before they move into their new arena?
They're starting to make me a believer. I still am going to hold fast to the Clippers will clop mentality, because I just until they do it in the playoffs, I just won't believe it. But just, you got to say, when you're watching them right now, especially with Kawhi, when Kawhi plays, they are monsters. I mean, he is in full cyborg mode.
Mm-hmm.
He's just no emotion. Just I'm gonna just drop 20 on you, and here, take these 3 steals and these 4 or 5 assists, and I'm gonna give it to you every time. And with James Harden making the ball, it just flows with him easy. So they know how to pass to each other in perfect cadence. So they look good.
It's kind of like Kawhi is truly that linchpin for that team, because one, he's not the star that needs to have the ball and be ball dominant. He's not the star that says, I need to score 30 points. He's a star that will actually defend on a consistent basis while out there and be generous with giving out the ball. When you have 4, literally probably 4 Hall of Famers on a team, you have to be able to distribute that ball but still maintain your greatness. And I believe he does that exceptionally well.
Yeah, and when they need a bucket, or when they need to take the heart out of a team, he just has this way of being it just bing, bang, boom. I'm going to hit 3 or 4 shots in a row that are just going to just break your back. And he does that every time to just either get them a lead or extend the lead when the team is trying to fight back. And he's always had that ability, but it's just now, because he's healthy, you're seeing it on a consistent level. And it makes them just really scary, because they still do have James Harden, and they still do have Paul George, and Paul George is giving them problems and giving buckets to everybody as well. So,
and Westbrook, let's not forget Westbrook. Westbrook is playing that perfect complementary ball. He's leading that second team with one of the other of the
Powell, 4. Westbrook is doing Westbrook-like things, and he's not turning the ball over as much.
That's key. And he's hitting an occasional open shot. He's not looking like Westbrook this year. I remember that when he was with the Lakers, they were always calling him Westbrook.
I know.
And you know why? And I believe one of the biggest reasons why you see a resurgence with him is because he's comfortable in this environment. He feels good. He doesn't feel overly dominated by the other individuals like he did with LeBron. And I think the scrutiny is a little bit less on the Clippers, so he can still be in this big market, still be at home where he came from, but don't have the light shining on him every single time they play.
There's not a pressure for him to score 20. So he can get 20, he could get 15 and 11, but just get them rebounds and get those assists. Play his game in just spurts, and he can be free with it because they're not relying on him to deliver them home. So now he's just icing on the cake, and they look good. I mean, hats off to that coach.
So again, just to hold you, because I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire at the end of the year when they get into these playoffs and make a run. You think they're gonna clock?
I do, and I'm saying that just because of my Laker love. But also just because they've done it every time. So they've had other teams.
But they never had a big four.
No, they have not. This is the first. I just think that the Clippers find a way to lose when they should win. So, and I can't get that out of my head. But right now they look like they could represent the West. That's how strong they look right now. I mean, when you win 12 out of the last 14 games. And, and they went on a 9-game win streak, and then they lost 2, and then won the next 4 or whatever. I mean, come on, they
were a middling team, prior to them kind of figuring it out. They were hovering right there around the 9th, 10th seed, and now they shot all the way up to 4. So if they can keep this going, I mean, might I say they could pass up Denver? They could pass up Denver and OKC, and get into that. And now they're really in contention to make some noise.
And this is not even the All-Star break, so I mean, we're not coming down the home stretch just yet.
We're gonna revisit this at the All-Star break to really see where they're at, and that's going to be a real barometer, a real determinant to see in terms of really what direction have they really figured it out. Are they, clopping, or have we unleashed something that the league wasn't prepared for because of how bad that start was?
Yeah.
But we talked about the Clippers surging. We got to talk about another team that started off very well, but has had a tough 10 days, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. Now Luka's been playing out of his mind. I mean, he had the 50-point game on Christmas. MVP level. I mean, he's literally crushing the game. But part of the reason why he's crushing so hard is Kyrie's been out. And Kyrie's been out for 12 games, and he's finally back. You're talking about 12 games, a lot of games. That's like half of John Morant's suspension. So he's been out for quite some time, but Kyrie's back, and I'm expecting big things. What do you think the Mavs are going to be able to do now that Kyrie's back healthy? They kept him out an extended amount of time to make sure that he came back healthy, and he wasn't going to have a reoccurring injury. So what do you think about that squad?
I think that Kyrie is going to obviously improve them, and they're going to be top 3 offensively if they're not already there, just in terms of overall offensive efficiency because of what Kyrie does. And we already know what Luka does. And then you have Hardaway that is going to be, if Hardaway stays hot like how he's been recently, he's dropping buckets. They have Likely I think he's a rookie, and he's just playing good big man game for them and doing a lot of hustle stuff. And then I think it's D Jones is also doing the same thing, just scrappy, athletic, and just getting in and making let's say hustle plays around that offensive efficiency that's going to come from Luka and from Kyrie. So now that Kyrie is back, they should make a push, but they are a team that I have to see them do it in the playoffs, similar to what we said about the Clippers. I just got to see them do it when it really counts. But I think that they could push into that 4th seed, anywhere between 8 and 3 in the West is, and the East really is like there's a separation of maybe a game, 2 games. So they're all right there.
Right.
And Dallas is right there.
They're all right there. What I like how this team is they have 4 legitimate individuals. When you talk about Luka, when you talk about Kyrie, when you talk about
who I just said,
Jones,
Jones.
Then also Likely.
Yeah.
They have some players there, and also What's my man's son that you just said his
Hardaway.
name? Hardaway,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So that's that's 5 players that can do the deal.
Yeah.
So I think this is a nicely constructed team. I think they can. Now, I will tell you this, Kyrie just came back, and even though he had a decent game, they still lost.
Mm-hmm.
So he's knocking off some rust. They have to kind of figure out how to play again together after 12 games being away. And also, Kyrie just is not going to come right in and just try to take over a game. Luka, when you're over here dropping 50, when you're over here in the top 5 in every major statistical offensive category outside of rebounds, but 3-pointers, scoring, and assists, he's all in there because he had to do all of those things. But Kyrie needs to sit over, and I like what he's doing. He's not trying to come in here and just say, hey, I'm back and rushing it. He's taking his time. He's getting his feet up under him. He's getting his sea legs back in there and allow this team to develop. It's still a lot. Even though we've played a lot.
They have some young guys, too. They Hardy, I think, was it Dante Exum is on that team as the point guard. They have about 3 or 4 young dudes that, you may not necessarily talk about them a lot, but they can get buckets and they can run because they're young. So they can push the effort. So yeah, I mean, they can do something. They're just guard heavy. So they are. When they start playing teams that are a little bigger and with more physicality, they're
gonna have a tough night out. So really, their playoff push, I think this is unequivocally a playoff team, but I think that their playoff push is how far they can go this year is going to be a little bit more determinant in terms of matchup. Than it does in terms of styles make fights all day long, without a doubt. And speaking of styles, the New York Knicks had a style of play. Grind it out. Just fighting. But the reality is that, you can't keep up with a team like the Pacers who's, high scoring, fast action, almost like Showtime Lakers on that grinded out style. They're not the Pacers. And so they had to make a move. And so this is a time of the year that, I actually love because teams have had an opportunity to assess where they're at and assess what their needs are and project what they have to do to get to where they want to go. And so the Knicks was the first team to pull that trigger. And they made a nice trade. Right. So Anunoby trade, what are your thoughts on that?
I loved it. I think RJ Barrett and quickly, it was a win-win.
It was a win-win.
RJ Barrett, he was drafted by the Knicks. He has been streaky. And bottom line is they need somebody other than Brunson to hit a 3, and they should not be relying so heavily on, Randall to be the guy. I mean,
because Randall's good, but he ain't.
He should not be your 1 or your 2. They really needed RJ Barrett to be that guy, and he's just he did what I said about Anthony Davis. He kind of became a shrinking violet for that team. He couldn't consistently hit the 3. He's had years where he's been good. He's had even moments in playoffs where he's been good. But this year, he's kind of reverted back to the mean of him being average to poor as a scorer. So maybe it's because of the pressure. Maybe it's because Jalen Brunson is so ball dominant.
That's what I think it is. I think he came in here thinking he was the man coming from Duke, and then you have Brunson who came in here with a greater work ethic. Because I don't, obviously
because he's
Duke
Mighty
team,
Mouse,
and those individuals didn't have the work ethic. I think you have a coach that is hardcore Thibodeau.
He's a grinder. He's like, we gonna practice.
And even though we came from Duke, I still don't think he has that a part of him, kind of just like Zion doesn't. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And then we have the expectations of being in New York City, playing for a historic franchise like the Knicks. Those become weights on your shoulders. And then when you hear in that media that you're not living up to what the expectation that they have.
You're the guy that they drafted. So you're the quote unquote homegrown drafted guy. So yeah, I'm sure he's felt the pressure of that all through his career thus far. The reason why I really like the trade for the Knicks is because Anunoby is he is the guy who has no pressure on him and can do what RJ Barrett cannot. He can shoot.
We saw that in his first game. He didn't have a phenomenal game, but he had a rock solid game.
He had, and they just needed the thing that you've seen with the Knicks is it's hard for them to score, and you're asking basically Jalen Brunson to be all worldly at his.
And he can't do that every night.
No, not.
He don't got that in him.
He's leading the league in charges. He's getting beat up. He needs somebody to take some pressure off. And Anunoby is also, he's pretty big. He's like 6'7", 6'8", and he can do the same things RJ Barrett can do, but he can do what RJ Barrett can't, which is score.
Right.
He can score. So that
I think RJ Barrett can score. I just think for whatever reason, something's been a little bit uncomfortable. That's why, to be perfectly honest with you, because I'm not all the way down on RJ Barrett. I think, like we talked about, this is a win-win. But I believe that Toronto's in a good place in this trade. You know, they got Quickly, they got RJ Barrett.
And I like Quickly.
Right, like Quickly. But so what's great about him going to Toronto is the one thing I can guarantee you is that the expectations and the bright lights aren't going to be on him in Toronto.
Right.
You know, maybe in that small little market, but it's not going to be like New York.
No, he's going to get a lot more love and a lot less media scrutiny.
Correct.
Playing in Toronto.
Correct.
That's just
and then hopefully he can just get back to his game, to where he was when he was most confident, which is just coming into the league fresh out of Duke and where he was the man. And also, you know, you go out there with Toronto, their GM, what's the GM's name again? Masai.
I think you said it right, Masai.
Masai. You know, I think he has a way with his players in terms of galvanizing them and helping them improve on their confidence and,
they
and
have
their
a
belief
good
in themselves.
Development staff. I mean, you have to love what they have done with the budding star on that team is Barnes. They have a solid center in Courtside. They've got Dennis Schroeder, who I couldn't remember a couple of drinks, a couple episodes back because I was drinking. But Dennis Schroeder, who was, you know, the Lakers effort guy at guard, and he's a smallish guard, but he's a guts and glue guy. They still have a solid squad. They're not. I mean, I think they're thinking about making one more trade move. So let's
get Siakam up out of there and get some value out of him. Let's bring in another couple of good players plus some draft choices, and you have a team that this year's not going to make some noise, but next year with a couple of extra first, or at least another extra first round draft choice, and them picking relatively high, then see what they can do.
Yeah, because the strange thing about Toronto is they're not really out of with the play-in tournament being in force. They're not really out of it. I don't think they're out of the 10 right now, but they're only a game or two out. And I could easily see them going as far as the 7th seed or being easily in the play-in tournament because they have enough talent to do it. So, you know.
Well, we got to see what they're going to do with Siakam because that's really going to be the determinant. Are they going to play that trade looking for more draft capital, or are they going to play that trade looking for, you know, bodies that they can actually use this year?
And that to me is just to free up money at this point. So if you're going to trade Siakam now for that team, you're just basically saying you're not going to be a part of our future.
But he's a staple of that franchise. So I think it is a part of, it's definitely money, but it also, when you take the heartbeat of a franchise, because he's pretty much a heartbeat once Kawhi left, you know, he was that heartbeat of that team, and you take that out, what is that team going to be? But it's not about what that team is going to be this year. I think it's what is that team going to be next year. And so we got to see how they play it, how Masai plays it.
Simon, I think it was his last name, Simon.
Right.
He is a phenomenal general manager, so it is going to be interesting to see how he plays, you know, this whole Monopoly game. It's going to be interesting for sure,
without a doubt. And so, you know, like this whole episode is all about surges or dips. And so, you know, there are a couple teams that are kind of floating right there in the mix, right? We got the Magic.
Oh, we talking on the East Coast,
on the East Coast. We're talking a little bit of East Coast game right now. We got the Magic. We got the Heat, who have surged. I mean, they were at the bottom of the barrel at the beginning of the first month of the season. That Heat culture, they've surged. And then we have the Pacers. So when you look at those three that we're talking about are 4, 5, and 6. which one of those three teams do you feel are going to be able to surge or possibly make a surge and really push the top three, the big three of the Eastern Conference?
If I'm being honest, none of them. Because you still have Milwaukee,
and
Philly.
that's a formidable big three. I feel you.
Yeah, that's still Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly. You're not getting past them dudes, if I'm being honest. But because they're going to be arguing between who's going to be 1, 2, or 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see any of them not making it into the 3. You know, as good as all of these teams have looked. But they're going to be jockeying. I think you can also throw the Knicks in there. We just talked about the Knicks. The Knicks at 7, especially with this trade, you know, they have another. Let's say because we're not even at the All-Star break,
right?
So they also
have a lot of basketball left.
Yeah, there's a month, maybe a month and a half to where any one of those teams could usurp them, eat one another to make it to the 4 seed. Could they slip into the 3? Only.
I think injury, right? I think injury can predicate that.
Yeah,
you know, but it's so crazy when there is a lot of talent. Magic has a beautiful squad. I love the Magic squad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Miami Heat are the Miami Heat, and they have a culture that's built in there. You know, obviously brought there by Pat Riley. They have Pat Riley. They have a phenomenal coach, and then they
Pacers
also,
and Halliburton and Turner.
Right. So there's a lot. There's a lot of deal, and when you talk about, we saw Miami go from the doldrums up to where they're at right now. You know, there could be a second jump, but it's just that big 3 is so strong.
They are.
It almost seems unimpenetrable for any of these other teams that are come up like this year. But you know, the NBA is always about surprises. It's always about things that we didn't expect were going to take place and we didn't expect to happen. And you can never sit over here and identify where an injury is going to happen.
I agree. So
and we don't want to have an injury happen.
I'm emotionally, I want to say the Knicks, just to fully answer your question. I think that they could make a surge. But logically, I would say probably the Heat, because with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Buckets.
Is he just so much heart.
Oh, man. They just thug it out.
Mm-hmm.
They just grind it out. And you never know when it comes down that home stretch, because we've seen them. They were the representative in the finals just last year.
Right, correct.
So it's like, come on, man. You already know that they can find a way to just basically bully their way in. And they're not, let's say, the TV favorite. Mm-hmm. They're not the commentator favorite, but they can find a way to bully their way in because they do it every year.
And that's a mature team. And I'm traditionally not a huge fan of mature teams. I think young legs are what you need to, you know, kind of get to that next level, and a budding star that people didn't expect to kind of step up, and they step up, which kind of propels the team. And that's why I really, 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 really love the Magic.
I do.
And the Pacers.
Those teams are pleasant surprises because you see, like you said, the young legs are, and that hunger that they have, you're seeing them mature. But I still don't see them getting into the top 3. I just don't.
But Magic's been playing well. They fell back a little bit. They kind of came back to earth. But I think that team that's kind of came back to earth, but they're coming back to earth.
Pacers just beat Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, I could also sound real stupid right now. You know, they just did that. So I agree. The Orlando Magic look great. The Pacers look great. But, you know, I don't see it. But that's the parity. That's the beauty. It could be any of them.
And I think looking at that that group of 3, I think where we're at the All-Star break is going to be interesting. You know, you're talking about 45 days, roughly, give or take a couple of days until that All-Star break. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what those 3 do. Who drops, who maintains, and who stays to really get a sense on which one of those teams are going to be a breakout. But I like you said, I don't think we know yet. Right. But also going to the West now, you know, we have the Pelicans, right? We have the Mavericks, and then we also have the Suns. Giants. So you're talking about 6, 7, 8. Which one of those 3 teams do you think can sit over and propel themselves at least by the All-Star break and break into that top 4?
Now that is it. That's hard. I think that it probably could be the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans have the most full, well-rounded team to make the surge. They can never stay healthy. There's always somebody broken on that team. So I guess it's a similar circumstance. The league is actually really interesting now because there's a lot of teams that are kind of like all right there. Because I think
they're all within a game of each other.
Right. Yeah,
game and a half. Right.
A game, maybe 2 games at most.
They're not even separated. They're a game and a half between those 3. So they're all kind of jockeying.
Well, no, at the end of the day, the only other team I might say is maybe Dallas because we just talked about Kyrie coming back.
And Luka playing phenomenal.
Yeah, so who do you think?
And so all of them have some unique pieces. Like you said, the Pelicans, what I love about the Pelicans, you remember that remember when we were young and the cars they used to race and they used to have like a special little turbo, a little gas called NOS you could turn on?
Yeah, hit that nitro.
Right, that nitro, right. So, Zion, whenever he chooses to pull his head out of his behind, it's kind of like that nitro, for that team that he can turn it on and just boom, that takes that team to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I think of him as like he's chicken and biscuits. Okay, he's a 2-piece meal. You know,
he's a 2-piece,
but Mr. 300-pound.
And so the thought process is, we don't know what they can do if he sits over here and kind of the light bulb goes off in his head and says, time to play. And I think that has to do with a little bit where they're going to be positioned at going into the second half of the year. If he looks up and sits over and says, we can make a real run, he feels good about that because it's all about personal feeling in terms of how you react or how he reacts. If he feels good about it, I think he can turn that light switch on and go. Now, when you have the Dallas Mavericks, we've talked about that. They have a nice team surrounding them. It almost feels like there's a one ingredient, like they need to make a trade to sit over here around this all the way out. It doesn't have to be a big trade, but it just needs to be something, something like that kind of just masking the deficiency that they currently have. But when you have Luka, which is, I would say, a top 5, 6 player in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have Kyrie, top 2, 3 point guard in the NBA or shooting guard in the NBA, or just guard in general. I think that there's a lot of exciting things that can happen with that team. And just Luka's has been playing so out of his mind. I mean, you're never out of it when you got somebody playing like that. And then lastly, you look at the Suns, and if that big 3 can come together and all of them play, like not for 1 or 2 games sporadically, but have a good stretch, like kind of just like what the Clippers have done.
Yeah.
Like that big 3 can come together and play consistently for 20 games, and you look at them and they're in the 4th spot. So all 3 of these teams have the ability to sit over here and shoot up. We just don't know which the cards are going to all, it's like when you're playing blackjack, it's or playing poker. It's like, who's going to get dealt that hand that's a winning hand for them to sit over here and take down the whole pot.
Yeah.
But they all have enough cards played to where they're just looking for that one situation, that one player that sits over and ignites them. So I think all 3 of them have the opportunity to do so. We got to see how it all kind of plays itself out and how it all plays.
Yeah, I feel you. So, I want to talk about this one guy, since we're just talking about young legs, we're talking about the parity of the league, but I got to almost give a little bit of love to Scoot Henderson. I'm actually glad to even talk and say the man's name. He's the number 2 player in the draft.
Hey, we haven't had a chance to talk about him at all. You're talking about the last 10 weeks because he ain't done nothing what everybody expected him to do.
Yeah.
But here's what the thing is when you're a gamer, when you're a player, when you been picked in that number 2. It wasn't just by coinkydink.
Right.
You know, he obviously had some game. Now, maybe it's the team. Maybe he had to get accustomed coming from Vegas to Portland and sitting over here and having to get acclimated. But the
it's
reality
not the
is,
most, let's say, opportune situation because they have basically 2 point guards with Brogdon and Simmons that are already on that team. But
but he wasn't brought there to run the offense. He was brought there to score, and he hadn't been doing that up until this point.
Yes, exactly. And I also think that he plays the point guard position because of his size.
Correct.
You know, he will have to be a scoring point guard. And it just he hasn't delivered.
He's a Steph Curry. He was you know, at the very most positive outlook, he was looked at as like another Steph Curry. You know, a lot of handle, a great shooter, but hard streaky.
I don't want to be unfair to the kid because I don't think that that's too much of a comparison to Steph.
Correct.
To say because Steph and his ability to shoot threes is not something that he has ever done. But what he is he's just so athletically dynamic. So you see that he should be able to just impact games with his ability to score because of all of the athleticism that he has. And I think he might have been hurt too. So I also want to like throw that out as like almost like a caveat for him. But he's finally
this generation. They always hurt.
They are though. That's interesting. They are
soft-boned, brittle.
Oh man, I don't know what it is. Is something in the water? I don't know.
They're similar.
Yeah. But at least I can honestly say now within the last, let's say 2 or 3 games, I seen him ball. He just beat San Antonio. I wish Wemby was playing in that game.
The problem is San Antonio. That would have been a great, be able to see the 1 and 2 out there. And that's going to obviously happen throughout their career.
But he looks good. He's starting to look like he's gotten 17 and then 22 and then he's gotten 7 assists or 11. It's like, okay, now you're looking like the dude that they drafted. Thank you.
So, and sometimes it takes time. That's the reality is. It's like we know he has a talent. That's undeniable. Sometimes that talent needs to take time to get acclimated to the space that they're at, adjust to the league, because the G League is, I don't care what you say, the G League is different from the NBA. Obviously. I mean, I'm not sitting over here philosophizing on anything new, but it's just different. And sometimes it takes especially,
it takes a minute.
And I think it takes a minute for when individuals dominate in the G League, because what it takes to dominate in the G League is different than what it takes to dominate in the NBA. And so that adjustment, them having to reconcile in their own minds that this ain't the G League and I need to sit over and have some adaptation to my game to be able to apply myself at the greatest level in the NBA. I think that takes some time. And also, when you pick that high, you're not with the greatest teams. Obviously, we haven't talked about Wemby. Talked about Wemby gangbusters in the first couple of weeks, but we haven't talked about him much now. And that has far more to do with not who Wemby is, but the team that he plays on.
Yeah, and Wemby's also, because we've said that he's lighting the ass and he's been hurt. So then, guess what?
But he got hurt not because he's lighting the ass. He got hurt falling on a ball boy and twisted his ankle.
Oh well,
so we can't blame that on Wemby being light in the booty.
No, okay, so that's fair. But what I think is interesting is that he's just not available. So let's say veteran pros, they find a way to kind of like gut it out and get themselves back on the court.
And they find a way not to trip over a fucking ball boy because they know the ball boys.
But, it's almost like they're treating him like a Ferrari. You know, it's like, oh, wait, hold on. You're a Formula One car. It's like, wait, hold on. We got a pebble in the engine. We got to make sure. We got to go in and dig in, grease it up. Knock that baby out, because we can't have nothing happen to you, buddy. So we're going to make sure you 100% every time.
What's nice about Wemby is he's leading the NBA in shot blocking. And so, young people, we can't expect them to come in their first year and dominate in terms of scoring or something like that. But he found something to dominate in. That's a very, very, very positive sign, because you tell me there is no other rookie that's the top or even in the top 5 of any major statistical category in the NBA, but he's leading the NBA in shot blocking. So that again is a testament to him, to how special he is,
and his gene pool, because he is 7'7".
He better,
dude. The fact that you as tall as a 2-story building, you should be able to block shots.
Did you see that picture when he was standing next to KD? You know, KD's a big mother. You know, KD's 6'11".
Yeah,
6'10", exactly. 6'11". And he's big, 6'11". And he made KD look little. He made KD look like Scoop.
Right. So, this man can dunk and block shots without having to jump. He can just be like,
that's insane. You know, so you know, like you said, we want to give a little shout out to Scoop because nobody's been talking about him because he hasn't been playing how he should, and he finally
looks good. And I'm like, or is he's contributing in a meaningful way. And so I'm happy for him.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, there are a couple other young players. Now, they're not rookies, but they're young. They've been in the league less than 5 years. But these are the individuals that are they're going to be leading the jersey sales in a couple of years because they're just that special of individuals, just that special of players. And really, I got a good question for you because both of these young players are statistically in the top 5 and 2 or 3 of the top 5 offensive statistics. And so one, we have De'Aaron Fox, who's in the top 5 and 3 of the 6 most important or most publicized statistics.
Yeah, we're talking about
scoring, you know, point scoring, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. He's in 3 of them. And SGA, Shea,
another gangster,
is in 2 of them, but he's ranked higher in the top 5 than De'Aaron Fox, but De'Aaron Fox is in more of those statistical categories. So that was an interesting dichotomy to me. It's like when you look at those two, they're both young, up-and-comers, fresh legs, monsters.
They're not even, it's interesting you say the word up-and-comers. They're almost at a stage in their career where it's going to be like, I've arrived, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. And that's kind of a disrespect to both of them. That's a little bit of a disrespect. Yeah. They have arrived.
Yeah.
But they're still, in terms of the arrival list, they're at the back of that list.
Yeah, they're not usurping LeBron.
Or Steph or any of them. Yeah. And that's because these individuals put in the time and the work, and they sit over and done it consistently.
And they've won at a highest level.
But these are individuals that we will be talking about, us doing this podcast in the 5-6 years from now. We'll be talking about them just like we talk about LeBron and Steph Curry. Yeah. But my question for you is, you know, I want you to put on your GM hat.
Okay.
You know.
It stays on.
You convinced the Lakers to get rid of Pelinka because he's just an agent, and they gave it to you.
Oh, man. Which, Jeannie, you need to do that. But anyway.
And Jeannie sat over here and said, you know what? I'm going to give you the keys to the bank account, the keys to the fucking vault.
For sure.
And which one of those two, if you could get both of them, which one of those two?
Or if I had to choose between?
If you had to choose, which one of those two would you sit over and say, this is the one I gotta have?
Wow. Well, that's a really hard question, but honestly, because of one reason and one reason only, age, I would probably say SGA. Only because he's a little bit younger. They don't do the exact same things but they are both young and in their primes. You know, but I would just say because SGA hasn't even reached what will be technically his prime years yet, and he's already looking like he's already a monster. So, but you know, De'Aaron Fox is also a monster, and he is one to where, you know, I screamed. I hated the fact that Magic drafted Alonzo Ball and
you had this monster in the draft.
Yes, because I think most of us watching, even though you weren't mad at them getting Alonzo Ball, but what you saw just even in college was just like, that dude is just better. And it was just like, no, Lakers, yeah. It's like,
but it's the Lakers. It's Hollywood. Like,
yeah.
you had to have that Hollywood church.
Alonzo Ball probably looked like he could have been more Magic-esque because he played for the sexy UCLA team. He was homegrown. He was all of that stuff. And he was good. But I know, Lord knows none of us could have expected him to be injury prone, which is what he ended up being.
Right.
But
because of them shoes.
Yeah, but De'Aaron Fox just looked better. And then, every time that De'Aaron Fox played the Lakers, and even to this day,
give it to him.
He gives us
because he's sideways on business. That. Yes.
And so he's literally a Lakers nightmare. He's a nightmare when we play him. He's always going to have like a season high in points and assists. So. But with all of that being said, it's not like there's a wrong answer, but I think I would probably go with Shai Gilgeous because of the youth.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I can't reconcile. Every time I lean one way, because
it's almost like waking up at night like,
your argument is 110% correct. But God, Fox is so G.
He is.
These young people get on my nerves with their little sayings, but when you talk about pushing P, DeAndre Fox is pushing P. Like, this cat is sitting over here, uber aggressive, sit over and take off on somebody.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to see that player with LeBron.
Oh my God!
You understand that LeBron could have sit over here and really taken that lump of clay. It'd been like
Kyrie type 2.0.
Kyrie with 2.0, but I think even more gangster than Kyrie because Kyrie's more cerebral than gangster. That's why I
said 2.0 because Kyrie is still 6'1". So and I think De'Aaron Fox might be like 6'3".
6'3", 6'4", right.
So he's a little bit of a tall boy
boost and will sit over and go take off on somebody.
And he can hit it from anywhere. He's let's say almost from that movie Spaceballs, he's ludicrous speed.
Right.
Like he is ridiculously fast.
So looking at it with this team of the Lakers and using the example of Jitty Bus giving us the keys to the kingdom, I would like to see Fox with this team.
I get it.
But SGA kind of like overall, unequivocally, I get it. Just both of them are very special. And also what I like about SGA, which kind of gives him a little unique wrinkle, is that he's international. He comes from Canada. He's played in those international waters. And there's something about playing in those international waters more consistently than the American players do every 4 years, is that this world is big. And that international b-ball game is different than the NBA game.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get a little bit of different flavor. It's like adding some extra seasoning, to an existing dish.
We put some paprika in there.
That the average doesn't do.
Right.
It makes it be like,
or
it's
some
like
cumin.
It's slapping, right.
Right.
And so that's what I think with SGA, his international experience applies for him and why you see him unique. He almost reminds me of a guard Kawhi. Kawhi's kind of like a hats or a person of many trades. Like, it can do a whole lot of things great. Like, that's what he reminds me of. So
I get that.
It's tough.
I get that because when you're talking about Kawhi, I think one of the things that makes Kawhi special is that he's got girth. He doesn't have the athleticism of a LeBron James in terms of his jumping ability. But and his playmaking ability, but what he is the reason he's so ridiculously strong, and he just can basically gangster his way.
Player,
yes,
and that's where SGA is. He's a very smart player.
And SGA is he's Kawhi light, meaning he's not physically. He doesn't have the pounds on him, but he's strong, and he can get wherever he wants to go. And make it happen.
I would almost think any other team I would pick SGA, but with the Lakers I would pick De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, and to me, there is no wrong answer with that one.
Right.
But that's why I said in the beginning, the only reason that I would pick SGA is because of the youth. But if we got De'Aaron Fox, I'm still getting a raise. You're still because we're gonna put a banner up for sure.
But what's exciting for me is which one of these two players is going to propel themselves to that superstar level.
That
here's what the thing is. Here's what's unique about this is both of them are in tricky markets.
They are
that kind of puts a cap like Oklahoma or Sacramento. Right, both of them are in tricky markets or tricky markets. So the thought process is what do they do after this contract is up to be able to position themselves for greatness?
You know what?
That's where we're going to really see.
And you know what's interesting about this season? I actually could see them playing each other in the playoffs. I could see OKC and Sacramento having
without
to
a doubt
and
be the best series of the whole playoffs.
Super duper entertaining, and they would solve it for us right then and there. I could see that happening.
But I don't even know if that solves it. Like I said, I don't think we can make that determination now. I think the moves that these individuals make on that next contract, so you're talking about within the next 3-4 years.
Okay.
I think that's going to be the determinant which one goes to superstardom and which one just is a star. Because they're both stars, right down, take a picture. They both have the ability to be superstars. They're not in markets to be superstars now. So who positions themselves the best to be a superstar? Maybe one of them with LeBron to Vegas.
Maybe, but I think the interesting thing about their seasons is that they have an opportunity this year, this very playoff, to take those, almost like how let's say the Greek Freak did with Milwaukee. Take those run of the mill, nobody cares about franchises, and turn those franchises into winners because you made it to the Western Conference
SGA,
or you made it to the finals.
Is more set up for that to take place.
Yes.
But that was a phenomenal analogy in terms of comparison.
Yes. They have the ability and the opportunity this year to do that. So it's going to be interesting. That's actually one of the beautiful things about watching the season.
Love it.
I don't know what the hell but they could go that far.
Love it. So, everybody, just like us, has expectations for teams, right? Expectations of what the prognostication is of what's going to happen, of what we see taking place. Here's where the reality. We all came into this season expecting certain teams, certain players to do certain things. For you, who is not living up to the expectation that we had coming into this season?
All right, so you see me wearing purple, right?
See, you gonna wear purple gold, you gonna wear something.
So it'd be I would be remiss if I did not say the Los Angeles Lakers are Rudy Poot. But I also think the Phoenix Suns. Those are the two teams.
That's where you stole mine. The Phoenix Suns is like
you agree with that? Okay,
without a doubt. But I think it's too early to make that full-on determination for the season. But up until this point, obviously, the Suns have not lived up to it. The Lakers, it's harder to say they haven't lived up to it. The record states that.
Yeah,
but their accomplishments state something different, because now we have accomplishments to be able to be had in the middle of the season, right?
Listen, they won the $500. They won the in-season tournament.
$500. $500,000.
See, look, I want to make it $500 now. Damn that. I'd be like, Ishbull, okay? I don't give two hoots about that in-season tournament now because y'all have looked like dog meat ever since. And so I'm tired of it. I think all of the Laker fans are tired of it, and and I'll cut my own self off because I can go on a real deep dive on it.
Yeah,
but I won't
do that because here's where twist is with the Lakers. I agree with you. Obviously, them being at 500 is not what we expected, but we've talked about this in previous episodes, and we're going to touch on it right now. They don't have a team as currently constructed,
right,
to sit over here and compete with other teams that have been constructed better.
They can compete with most of the teams that we just talked about.
And that has nothing to do with the players. It has everything to do with the GM. Because there's players there. There's a foundation there to do that. The GM, the organization has not placed the correct
people in place.
It's almost like they want to do it cheaply.
Well, look, I don't necessarily agree with that. I just would say,
you think they do have a team that can do?
I think that the Lakers have had a hard early season. They've played a lot of road games. This month, January, I think they have somewhere around like 9 or 10, or like maybe their next, let's say 9 out of their next 12 games are at home.
So you're saying the Lakers like the Cowboys? They can't win on the road.
Well, it's just they've played a lot of road games. They've played a lot of back-to-backs. Now, this is not an excuse.
It's an older team. Well, their stars are older, so that is an impediment.
And it's not an excuse, because what we said about the Lakers before, it is still true, is that they don't have enough, let's say, offensive efficiency at this point to be a threat. They do not. It is like basically LeBron and AD have to play like monsters, and then they got to have Reeves and somebody else, and that somebody else can vary to fill in the gaps, and then they win the game in a close game. When they all play, because they are built, the way that they are constructed, they're built to be a top 2, top 3 defense, and they weren't supposed to be a heavy scoring team.
How can you build a defensive team around individuals over 30? Well, that's again Pelinka. That's that tricky shit right there.
On paper, and what they did last year, that's what you were expecting.
How do you build a defensive team? Has nothing to do with so much with scheme. It's about effort.
Yes.
It's about energy. It's about what you have in the tank.
Yes.
You have the oldest player in the NBA on your team. But you can't surround that team and say defense is going to be our secret sauce.
But that's what Darvin Ham preaches.
No. He preaches what was given to him.
No, I don't think so.
So do you have an offensive juggernaut on that team?
I think
and he's just turning it into?
Darvin Ham came from the Detroit Pistons, and you remember that Pistons team that won the championship with
why
Rasheed
was
Wallace
Darvin Ham hired?
Well, because
they didn't want to spend.
Okay, you can say that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but you can make that argument. All I would simply say is they went to the Western Conference Finals
without a doubt.
And one of the reasons why is because the latter half of the year, they were literally number 1 in defensive efficiency with these same players.
One of the reasons why is because you have the greatest player that ever touched a basketball on your team. But the reality is at 39, Negro's not too far from my age. When you have an individual that is that old, that only works at the end of the season, that only works in a 1-game elimination tournament, it doesn't work for an 82-game season. And so my thought process is that they had to be better. And that's why Magic left. Remember why Magic left?
Yeah,
is because he didn't have the control of the deal.
Yeah,
and when you have Pelinka there sitting over here making choices for this team. Now, mind you, this is not the only team that's in the that is not set up perfectly, even though there's an expectation for them to play great. We have the Phoenix Suns that sit over and have a big 3, but one of the big 3 is constantly hurt.
The Lakers and the Phoenix Suns are very similar because they both have there is theory of what they have on paper and what they should be doing and what they're actually producing is different.
Because of what?
Because of the personnel decisions that they made.
Is it fair to say, we talk about this damn near every single week, the Lakers need more?
Yeah.
I don't think the Suns need more. I think it would be cool to add one other person. I just don't think the situation was really set up.
Well, if you think that Nurkic as your center, and you basically relying heavily on Booker and Bradley Beal, who's always on the shelf.
Right.
And Kevin Durant, who is not fragile, but is also of somebody who can get hurt. And then you're just putting duct tape together, Metu and Gordon and guys. Right. I don't know if they're, let's just say, constructed to win. They're top heavy.
They're top heavy, but if the top plays, the problem is the top don't play. Yeah. If the top play, what would this team do?
Yeah. So I agree that in this general sense about the way both teams are constructed, they were constructed with an idea that didn't come to fruition in the regular season. Period. End of the story. They have not been able to prove. Lakers have not been able to prove that we're going to be a top 3, top 2 defense, and the Suns have not said that we're going to be a top 1-2 offense. And both of those things have not come to pass.
My challenge with the Lakers is Austin Reeves not the answer. And I'm tired of every single individual out there that's probably never played the game, but sits over and gets excited about Austin Reeves for whatever reason, sits over and says Austin Reeves is the answer. Austin Reeves is a compliment. And if they get another individual that is of the ilk of
they need to make a move.
A LeBron, it have to be equitable, but if LeBron and AD are here and they bring in somebody here and then you have Austin Reeves here, well, now we have a team that can sit over here and make it happen.
If I'm, and I hope Jeannie's listening, but if I'm the Lakers, I would want to go and get DeJounte Murray from the Hawks.
I love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That
makes a whole lot of sense.
I think they need that desperately. Mm-hmm. Now, just as it relates to the season, the Lakers are going to be playing a lot of home games, and they're going to basically be in their own bed.
We're going to have the ability to surge,
and so on and
but here's what the twist is:
so
we can't talk now about the surge. What we have to do is look at where this is a prime team. This is a prime team of where are they at the All-Star break?
Right.
If they're 6-5. Okay, we got action.
Right.
Because
if they're 10th, which is where they are
right now. Have a nice day.
If LeBron is in the play-in tournament, then damn everybody. And why do we always pick these bad dudes? Like, why? Just like I think we had done the year before. It's like we got Gabe Vincent, and it sounded good on paper, and then the motherfucker.
You know why? Because because the person who's the GM is really just an agent.
Well, you do not like Pelinka, boy. You do not like him. Pelinka's cool. Look, we're gonna wrap on that.
Pelinka's cool to you.
I like him. Hey, that was Kobe's.
Exactly. That's why you like agents. I like real general managers.
Look, respect.
Church on the move. I appreciate you coming to the show.
We talked it out.
I need y'all to sit over here and like, download, subscribe.
Yes.
Show us some love. All of our new people, this is 2024. We are making the trek to the playoffs and to the championships. Come with us. Come go on this journey, this voyage.
Let's see what these guys do.
Because this league is sitting over here is special and unique. So appreciate all of y'all. We having some fun. T-Money.
What did we say last week? The NBA is fantastic.
Hey, so is this cognac.
Church
of the Move. Appreciate y'all.